Greetings on this stunning morning here in the northwest of Ireland. The weather really is like autumn. It's got that lovely autumnal feel, including autumnal energies and the creative elements that come along with this. The seasons are definitely in the wrong places now, and they're not like the seasons where when they're more stable. And it's whatever this weather is at the moment and what's causing it. It's very beautiful, and long may it last. Now we're also in the post psychic assault, mass psychic assault period, and so we're recovering, although the world is still devastated. Now this actually brings up a question. Now that this pathological force that attacked us, or fed off us for 2.5, nearly not for 3 years, and goaded our governments into declaring war on their governments, goaded governments to declaring war on their citizenry, and will it come back? Well, of course it will come. Well, maybe not that. This thing could be got off to a different dimension, whatever, forever, and it operates outside the space-time system. It makes you wonder about past. Before we get to like how will it come back? Well, it will come back. But how will we defend ourselves? Well, the same way we defended ourselves this time. We formed into a tribe. I was talking to another tribe member, not our tribe. He's in his own tribe, but he's awake. And he was telling me that he believes that he and his wife are suffering post-traumatic stress from the last 3 years, and I totally down with that. I totally understand why they feel that way. Many of us are. It's it's after the greatest war that humanity has ever fought, and it's bad. There's devastation to society and economies and everything else, families, children, colossal. This thing it fed upon us, and then it left with its belly full, and we're here to pick up the ruins. But we survived, which is no bad thing. But he said that he went out with his mates the other night, and he said all he would talk about was monkey bollocks, and he did everything he could to keep his mouth shut. And he said, I don't like keeping my mouth shut, and I feel poisoned by it. Well, he's going to have to move away from his friends, his old Matrix friends. And that's what's happened. There's been a division in humanity. Us in the tribe. We're going to have to move on, aren't we? We're going to have to move on. And what was all changed now. It makes you wonder about all history, doesn't it? There's my mate now. That's a day she's walking by. It makes you wonder about all history now. You think about things like the Black Death, it killed 1/3 of Europe. Did it really kill 1/3 of Europe, or did the aristocrats just slaughter 1/3 of Europe and blame it on a pox? Because we know that's what's going on now. To the same families, they haven't changed. They're still in the game. Why wouldn't they have done something like that in the past? Wouldn't put it past any of them. Or they could just go and kill everybody, and then say, "Oh, they died of monkeypox or a Black Death," and there's no one around to write an alternative history because they own the history. They own it, and the history books and everything else. So they could have done what they wanted in the past. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? But if this thing comes back, well, it won't come back, but something like it comes back. If this shadow. Well, first of all, you'll be like us, right? You'll detect it before anyone else. It was a real chaff from the wheat kind of thing, wasn't it? Like, I know people who are like hippies living, trying to pretend they lived off the grid. New Age Wiccan types. And they were saying, like, they had conversations with them about, like, one day it's all going to go down. And they were like, I'm ready. I got my shack up in the mountains. I'm ready to go. And when the Rona started, they folded like a cheap camera. They full on mask, social distancing, needlecraft, uh, having a gross, for all the talk about ready to take on the Matrix, having their having the collapse of society, having their groceries delivered by Super Value and hosing them down with disinfectant before letting the bags into the house. This is like, these are the ones who were saying to me beforehand, I'm ready for it. You aren't ready for shit. You're a fucking piece of shit coward like so many people. So what have we learned about ourselves? We're not cowards. That's what we've learned about ourselves. Now, what, how, so we'd know when a pathological force is coming back by, I think, the confusion. You remember those? Do you remember the confusion between, say, February 2020 and April 2020? There was a kind of sense of bewilderment. Well, the bewilderment was a lack of answers, okay? And when you get a lack of answers in from people, and you're bewildered by their behavior, it's usually not good for you, whether it's in your social life, your personal life, whatever. Usually it's not good for you. So when we were being bewildered on a mass level, and then when the psychological terrorism came in, showing people being zipped up in body bags in the street, and the likes of Claiborne here on TV doing a special report from her garden shed because she had to socially isolate, just all this endless psychological terrorism on the population. Yeah, yeah, how we know it comes back. Those kinds of things. I mean, it's it's like the beginning of the Call of Cthulhu. You want to know how these things run. There was before. Well, I was not prophesizing it beforehand, but I made loads of videos like the tyranny of public safety and many others saying, there's something coming down the road and it relates to public safety, and I'm not comfortable with it. And it wasn't prophecy. That was me reading the signs, the auguries. Ooh. See, there was something not right in the matrix. There was something not right in the world, and I was reading it. And I can tell these things by behaviors in people and behaviors in society. And there's an initial bewilderment, initial confusion, but then it starts to become clear. And then you realize, okay, we're under attack here, boom. So, I mean, what have we learned from the last 3 years, right? That mainstream media and TV is a demon, and you cannot allow that thing into your house. The television the news channels in your home, they're demons. And even when you say things like, well, I watch GB News and they're better, but you're still getting poison delivered with sugar. You need to not watch it all the time. What I do is basically it shows up on my newsfeed, in my social media news feeds, and I have a look. Oh, what's this? Is interesting. Interesting. And then I let it go. But I don't switch on TV channels and wait for the latest psychological terrorism. On top of that, so we've learned that we've no friends in mass media. They're at the end. We've always known that, but we've also learned that you can't depend on your own family and friends, because what's inside your body and your mind and your soul and your head is not what's inside theirs. There's not. And so you can't be depending automatically. You hear endless stories of like we were a happy married couple until the Rona bollocks came along and she got the needlecraft and I didn't, and now we don't see each other in the same way anymore. Sad. There you go. Chat from the wheat. And protesting doesn't work. They'll infiltrate that. All the Irish protests were all infiltrated, either by a well-known Sinn Féiner waving a Palestinian flag. Always look for that fucker, or the waving the Palestinian flag, but it's nothing to do with when you're trying to fight for the imminent freedom in your own country, and some cunt from Sinn Féin shows up waving a Palestinian flag. Take the flag and him and throw them both in the river. Or else RTE spooks showing up with the T-shirts that deliberately had "there" spelt wrong, DHERE. RTE should hand their heads in shame. Instead of THEIR, it's THERE, and are given prominent view time to make it look like all the protesters were morons who could don't understand grammar. That's the oldest trick in the book. And in Ireland, we've discovered that Ireland is an evil country. Tolkien is right, Ireland is evil. And the only thing that stops the evil in Ireland is the decency of ordinary Irish people. The kindness and decency of our ordinary Irish people is the only thing to take. But this is an evil land. I mean, as beautiful as it is, I now fully understand it's an evil place. Our government is evil. Our politicians are evil. Many of the people here are evil, and many people are not evil, and they're the ones you look for. But yeah, this is an evil land. Look at it; it's beautiful. We're just looking around. This is an evil, evil land, and we discovered that in the Rona. And Tolkien was right. Ireland is an evil land, and the only thing that keeps that evil at bay is the kindness and goodness of the Irish people. It kind of explains immigration now, doesn't it? But anyway, if you can learn to live with it, it's great. But you know that there's something, and maybe we're being punished for rejecting the old gods. Maybe that's maybe for rejecting the old Celtic pagan gods. That's why we ended up with famines and all that kind of thing. But, the babe's prophecy came true, didn't it? I will see a time when there are fields without produce, a sea without produce, fields without harvest. When men will go to bed with their daughters, and mothers will go to bed with their sons. An evil time. Every man devious, and no man will take a lover outside his own home. 3,500 years ago, the Battle of Mythura, the babe raven goddess, Gruk goddess, made that prophecy. And here we are. And, maybe we were cursed for that reason. Maybe that's the story of the children of Lear. When the children of Lear is a fable that really represents the transition from paganism to Catholicism, Christianity. Maybe this is the Crom Crook, this punishment of the Crom Crook. But all I know is that being a pagan is much nicer in Ireland than being a Christian. Just being a Christian here is just an endless battle against, it's endless pain. All you have to do is look. Every single Christian I know in Ireland is in a state of pain. Every single one. They never admit it, but they are. There's a sense of pain about them, and a sadness and a darkness about them. Irish pagans don't have that, and there's maybe that's what the evil in Ireland is when it was, Christianity when it came. I'm not saying all Christians are evil, of course, anything like that. But yeah, there's you can see that, like, Christians in Ireland, Catholics or Protestants, carry a heavy burden in their heart. You can see that. Well, release the burden. You can still admire the life of Jesus in the same way you can admire the life of Buddha or admire the life of Zoroaster, or admire the life of, anyone. You don't have to join the club, Just saying, but yeah, the evil will come to the surface with the smirks. You'll see it in your country, the Faucis, all the demonic ones, all the putrefying, the putrefying cancerous dregs of the abyss come to the surface. The likes of Fauci, Hancock, all those types, all the beasts in media. They manifest as they're sort of like the fangs and teeth in this mortal realm of that world. But yeah, I mean, you'll notice in the zeitgeist, just read the opening to the Call of Cthulhu, that, the horror in clay, the sensitive artistic student who knows something is not right in the world, and news reports of things happening in the west of Ireland or in the South Seas or in the Louisiana bayous of strange behaviours and people not being themselves, and reports of nightmares and stuff like that. And this is how it makes it. This is when. I'm about myself and Morgoth's review, both speculated that this may well have been Cthulhu, and this may have well have been the manifestation of Cthulhu, what we dealt with, in the last couple of years. And in Lovecraft stories, people aren't, they aren't, they don't, they're not, they're rarely killed by the entity. They either go mad or commit suicide. Hey, what's we were dealing with last 2.5 years? Madness and suicide, but sky-die and everything else. And yeah, I mean, I've learned more from that than I've learned from any theology. But watch for the shimmering on the surface of the dark water. Whenever evil is afoot, whether it be in your local community or in the world as a whole, always look for those ripples and disturbances on the surface of the dark waters. Ave Lucifer, long live the horn gods.